If you're like one of those people that watches lots of YouTube videos, and you've probably come across this guy, Jack Coyne. So he started out as Casey Neistat's assistant and eventually worked his way up to becoming a producer level, executing some really cool ideas with Casey, and also working on a company called Beam, a startup type company that Casey had founded. But recently, he got some notoriety after making a video called I Got Fired.
I got fired. I'm not going to be working at Beam anymore in the future.
After posting that video, things got kind of weird. He ended up getting over 100,000 YouTube subscribers. People started following his journey into creating and figuring out how to have an audience and a business and all these things. And we talk about all that and more on this week's podcast.
If you ask someone to do something and then you have to take the same amount of time teaching them how to do it as you would just doing it on your own, it's not worth it, right? But if you can ask someone to do something and it takes 1% of your time and they can execute on it 90% as well as you can, it's worth it. So it's kind of about finding that trade-off.
We talk about how to keep the momentum going, whether you should seek passion or stability, and offer advice for those looking to land their first gig and become indispensable. You have had an interesting year, to say the least.
Yeah.
2018, the year of Jack Coyne. How is it going so far? What have you been up to lately? And then we can always delve back and talk about how you got here.
Yeah, well, it's been terrible. No, it's been fantastic. So I'm doing my own thing this year for the first time since graduating college. I have my own job and my own business. I'm working for me. So every day I get to wake up and do a project that I care about or that is, I chose to do. So recently I've been sort of trying to focus the vision of what my story is, what my brand is, and how I can make the best movies possible, the best videos possible. So the most recent big project that I did was a video for a company called Matcha Bar. Which is a nationally distributed matcha energy drink. My friend started this company as a cafe like 5 years ago. And I'd been aware of it, and I'd been to the cafe a bunch of times, and they had this new drink that was coming out, and they kind of reached out to me based on other videos that I'd been doing on YouTube, and they said, we want you to tell this story. So that's kind of started in March, and it just came out in July, but it went really, really, really well. It was really well received. And it was a ton of fun to work on, and it was like a brand story. It was a 3.5-minute YouTube video that was kind of like, this is who we are, and I wasn't in it at all. So after spending the last 6 months or so making YouTube videos that I was in front of the camera, I was behind the camera for this one totally. And I want to spend more time doing stuff like that in addition to telling my own story. So trying to direct commercials and direct videos about brands that I'm excited about. So that's what I'm working on now.
How does it feel right now being at that very early stage? Like if I would think back to like the first year when I even started trying to get clients and build a business, it's like it's a challenging thing to navigate because you're dealing with so much new stuff, like how to deal with the client relation, how to deal with expectations and deadlines and everything else that goes with running a business that may be a little bit different from being an employee. How have you been managing that, and what have you learned?
I'd always done it peripherally, like one of my skills as an employee for other people was working with clients and was being comfortable talking to people and managing that relationship. The hard part when you're on your own is I have to do the filming and the editing and the producing, and there's a million things you have to handle. But I have a friend who sort of acts as a manager and helps with a lot of that stuff. He had encouraged me for years to like start YouTube. He's like, you're gonna do YouTube, man. Like, start the channel, get it going. So when I did start the channel, he manages other YouTubers. So I was like, okay, I guess like since you've been telling me to do this for so long, I guess you're my de facto manager. Right. And so he helps with a lot of that stuff as well and helps navigate those relationships and set up the brand deals. So I don't have to spend too much time working on those relationships. I kind of am lucky I get to work on the video stuff.
Yeah, you did a killer job on the matcha video. I watched it this morning. So it's like a 3.5-minute video. Mm-hmm. There's a lot to it. Was that if we take a step behind the scenes, is that you doing all the work? Are you hiring extra editors, animators to collaborate on this project?
Yeah, I didn't do the animation. I oversaw the animation. We hired a post-production company that did all that stuff and kind of took it to a different level. That's something I'm excited to learn how to do more of is animation work and sort of the graphics. But for that project, like, we wanted to do something super special and unique, so we brought on a team that did the post.
It is cool how it doesn't have to be that much, and I think sometimes you can overdo it if you're like, you know, adding animations and like extra zhuzh to every frame in the video. But if you're able to be thoughtful about it, I think it just like completely elevates the production level on any project.
100%.
But it's very hard and it's very expensive as well.
I think that any movie is like a puzzle, or any video is like a puzzle that you're trying to put together, and there's unlimited ways to solve the puzzle, right? And oftentimes you can take something to a different level by adding just a couple frames or a couple of seconds of a cool animation. There's so many things you can do, but you know, that's like one of the tools in the toolbox you can pull out.
Can it be overwhelming too to have every option at your disposal? Like, is there a paralysis of choice in those moments too?
So I'm working on a piece right now that I filmed that was a travel video. Like, I often go to a place, experience it, film as much of the things that I think are interesting as possible, and then come back and I look at the pieces that I have, right? And I say, there's so many ways to put this together. What are my favorite parts? How do I construct the story around my favorite parts? And then I think, okay, I could add X, Y, and Z and make this that much more exciting. But oftentimes, looking at the parts, you get overwhelmed and you're like, wait a minute, what is this? And it takes a while to figure out, you know, what the story is.
Yeah, that can be, I think, a very difficult hurdle to overcome, is like asking yourself, is there something there? Like, is there a story here? Is this interesting? Is this worth even putting out there? Or did I just completely fuck up? And like, was this project an entire mistake?
Yeah. And sometimes you have to do all the work after the fact. You have to you're like, wow, I really screwed up, like when I was in France and I didn't capture anything that interesting, so now I got to do all this research and like construct this whole new story about what France is all about.
That's what's great about shooting and editing your own projects. And like, I think it probably goes for any art form. If you're doing photography, if you're just editing photos, it's a different experience than if you have to deal with your mistakes. So if you're just shooting stuff and handing it off to an editor all the time, you're not really seeing, oh, I should have held that shot. Oh, I should have asked them, you know, or I should have got room tone at the end of this interview, or I should have did this and that. And I think like really editing your own footage, even if you're just doing it in the beginning, is so important to learn about how to be a filmmaker and what to capture.
Totally. So going back to the matcha bar piece, I mean, we wrote something at the beginning. Like, the first thing we did was I sat down with those guys. I was like, tell me your story from day one. What do we have? What's in the archive already? What do you have pictures of and videos of? And we constructed a narrative. And then we shot a lot of pieces, put something together, and then we totally changed the narrative after 3 weeks. And then we put something else together and totally changed the narrative and changed the voiceover and added animations and took away animations. And eventually we got to something after a few months that we were like really, really excited about. But it wasn't the story that we wrote from day one. And that was what was really great about working with those guys, is they wanted to like really figure out their story with me. And thankfully we're like good friends. We grew up together. So it wasn't like they were willing to sort of change things as we went and
trust the process.
Yeah, exactly, which was great. And it was similar to making a YouTube video, which is what it was, and why I think at the end of the day it felt so honest.
Yeah, I think you have to be willing to first of all, like, fight for the idea in the beginning. Like, let's see if like we're actually giving it a shot. Like, if this is actually going to work. But then eventually you got to be like, all right, well, this is just not going to work. Like, it's not, there's something missing there. We need to take this on a different tangent. And I think that goes with any business or video, anything you're making. You have to be willing first to put in the work to actually give it a shot, but then also to change if it's not working out.
Totally. So I'm the protagonist of my YouTube videos, and that's what they had seen and they were fired up about and why they hired me. But it was kind of like the idea was replace me with them, and so like make these guys who aren't YouTubers to tell their own story, sort of. And after we did a few recordings and whatever it takes, they were like, I don't know how we sound. Like, I don't like the way I sound on video, or I don't like my voice or whatever, which is natural. Like, when you first hear yourself, you're like, whoa, do I really sound like that? And so I said, just don't worry, trust the process, and we'll record it again, and we'll figure it out. We'll make you guys comfortable. And eventually, at the end, they walked away, and they were still kind of nervous, and people watched it. They're like, we love you guys. You're awesome. You're such great storytellers. But it took a while to sort of get used to their own voice, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's the nice thing about not shooting something that's live is that, hey, let's just shoot it. If it comes out horrible, then we'll change it.
Yeah.
We don't have to put this out there. And I think that takes away some of the stress. It allows you to get a little bit more creative, to give some alternate takes that are maybe a little bit weird and a little bit out there, just to have them, just to try to put it in there. And I think that goes down to the idea of, like you said, shoot as much as you can, as much as is possible during the time that you have set for production, and then figure it out in post, because you can't reshoot something if you don't have it.
Yeah. And even if I wasn't there, I was like, guys, capture it with your cell phones. This is like a collage that we're going to put together. And if like the writing's good and the story's good, people will look at whatever footage you have and work with you through the story. You just have to present it the right way.
Yeah, especially if it's like supplemental. I think that's when, obviously I think quality is really important, and it definitely has its merit. And like, especially if you're a filmmaker and you're trying to improve your craft, you want to make it as beautiful as you possibly can. Yeah. Cinematography, the audio. But even like from a supplemental angle, like I remember shooting a video in Whole Foods, and in LA, it's very hard to film anything in public. They shut you down right away. And I just had a Sony A7S. It was a very small camera, but still security came within a couple minutes. Maybe within 30 seconds of footage, and it wasn't even usable. And then I was like, all right, well, he's like, you can use your phone if you want. And I was like, all right, I guess I'll use my phone, because that's the only thing I could use in that moment.
Yeah.
And it ended up working out fine. Nobody was like, hey, I can't believe you used your phone for those 5 shots in that video.
Yeah, I wonder if that'll change in LA, if they'll become more, because there's so many YouTubers here and stuff now. I'm sure it happens more often. People have the selfie stick and phone, so I'm sure they're going to get more comfortable with it.
I don't know, though, because it seems like it's just as bad, because everybody wants a cut.
Yeah.
Everybody wants you're filming here, and especially if everybody's doing it, maybe it's disruptive. But at the same time, it's everybody's shooting on their phones. Yeah. So what's the difference?
Yeah.
I
guess that's the industry in LA, right? I remember filming a commercial in New York, that we were driving a car around Times Square at 4:30 in the morning, and we had guys in the back of a minivan with the back door open, filming out of the back. It was a kind of sketchy, serious shoot.
Yeah.
And we had major big cameras, and we were driving at one point, and the cops are right next to us, and don't say anything, don't care. They're like, it's Times Square, we got bigger fish to fry.
Yeah.
Keep filming.
Yeah, I had this similar stuff where I'm because in college I was taught that if the sticks are down, if your tripod is down, then you have to have a permit. And I've filmed so much stuff where cops have just walked by me, they don't care. The only time I was on the Brooklyn Bridge filming, I was shooting a garbage can or something. I don't know. I was just getting weird aesthetic B-roll for a project I was working on. And then 3 cops came up to me and said, hey, we got a call about, he's like, I think he said hey, you're not ISIS, are you? And I was like, no, sir, I'm not. Because I think they get those calls all the time. Somebody has a camera or something that looks like technology, and some old person doesn't know what the hell it is. Yeah. And then they report it. But even then they were just they didn't care. Yeah. They were like, go ahead. There are some areas where, if you're shooting near or around the Holland Tunnel. I actually did shoot on top of the Lincoln Tunnel.
Yeah.
I kind of broke in on. I mean, I didn't break in. I didn't break any gates down, but it was just right there. I just kind of hopped up on top of it and was filming down as cars were entering the tunnel. And then the cops got called on me. Yeah. And then I take out one of the cards because I was dual slot record. I pulled out one, put it in my pocket, so in case they want it, I could still have it. But then they just they wrote down, they took my information and they said, all right, get out of here. Don't do that again. Yeah. So I think for the most part, it's that idea of, do you ask for permission where they're just going to say no, or do you just try to get the shot, and then if you get in trouble, you deal with it?
Yeah, it's better to beg for forgiveness than ask for permission.
Yeah. I think one of the big things that I want to get across is how do people navigate getting that first gig? Yeah. Because I think the first gig is the hardest, whether it's a freelance project or it's your first internship or job.
Totally.
Because you have no experience. Yeah. You are just getting started out, and once you get that first thing, then you can snowball, then it can build into something bigger, but landing the first one is tough. So what advice do you have for people, and how did you make it work?
Yeah, I started super early. I started working for Casey Neistat when I was 18 or 19. And I was living at home, and I wasn't like totally like concerned about money, thankfully, which is like not everyone gets to have that. And I said, I'm willing to do literally anything. Like, what do you need help with? And that was sort of my pitch, is like, let me show you that I can be helpful. And then we can go from there. And I'll just like sort of observe what I can while I'm sweeping the floor or while I'm taking out the trash or whatever. It's like, and I learned that, I guess, from working in restaurants and working at the pizzeria on the Jersey Shore, that like if you're helpful, people are going to really like having you around, and then they're going to give you more opportunities. And being helpful starts from doing stuff that is not glamorous. So I get a lot of emails from kids that are like, hey, like hire me as your whatever assistant, or hire me to edit your videos, or hire me to do whatever. It's like, you got to sometimes you got to ask for something that's a little bit smaller and then build up to that. I think that's, for me, that was the best way. And I guess I learned that from older friends or from family members and stuff who said, hey, just get your foot in the door. And once your foot's in the door, show them how good you are. But don't ask for the moon right away. Ask for something smaller and then build up to it.
If you're trying to go after something very specific, I think that can be difficult. So maybe it's also letting go of the expectation as well, as like, I am going to even get that opportunity.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you got to try to find whatever opening that you can.
Yeah.
Like there's probably only one person that's going to get that internship opportunity in the very beginning, like you got. So you get the internship, that's one thing. But then how do you hold on to it?
Yeah. So, well, I mean, first of all, I like created a position. There wasn't a position there, right? And I think there's ways to create a position. Figure out who the person is that you want to work for, or who you want to learn from. Figure out something that they need. Research, look at their habits. Like, everyone's living their lives on social media right now. Look at what they're doing on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, and figure out, hey, this person really needs someone to help them with X. I know I could do that for them. And prove to them that you can do that for them. Like, to write them a creative email or create something for them right off the bat that they're like, wait a minute, this guy will do this thing for me for free? Okay, let me give him a shot here. I really do need help with that. And then you're kind of in the door, and you build up from there.
Everybody has these tools at their disposal. Like, whether it's Excel or learning bookkeeping or learning how to pick up a camera and shoot, like, there's countless tutorials online for you to learn. And so before that internship, I don't necessarily think that anybody going into an internship, first gig, first job should have zero experience, because they have the opportunity to at least learn and to pick up a craft in their spare time, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, everything you could want to know is on YouTube. Literally everything, right? And so a lot of times when I did get that first job, I was asked to do things that I had no idea how to do. And rather than say, hey, show me how to do this, I just said, oh, YouTube or Google can show me how to do this.
Was college a valuable experience for you? Like, when you look at the balance between the two, what did you glean from college versus the practical working experience? Because I know you started while you were in college.
Yeah. So I went to a liberal arts school, and I think I learned the biggest thing was learning sort of how to write and become a better sort of thinker and scholar, which is super important. And then just socially, it was like really fun, and I had all my best friends are from college, and I did film school. I went to a liberal arts. I was in a film program, but we weren't picking up cameras. We were watching and analyzing movies. So I would watch like 2 movies a day every day, and sort of I would write papers about them or take long notes and say, what am I learning from this? And I had really, really great film professors who helped me break down what a movie was. And that translated to life in general, I think. It helped you look at something and think through it and write about it.
So it's not necessarily about like the facts you learn, like remembering certain stats, figures, or historical events, but learning like critical thinking, how to examine things.
Exactly.
And those were things that you could, it's kind of hard things to teach, right?
Yeah.
And hard things to learn.
Yeah. Well, so the head of the film program, I went to Wesleyan, Connecticut. The head of the film program there is kind of like a legendary film professor. She started one of the first film programs in the country, and she kind of like wrote the book on film analysis really early on in the 60s. And so she made things sort of super plain and straightforward. and made it really easy to understand a movie. And it was just like, you took her class long enough and she spoke in such plain language. You're like, oh wait, it is sort of simpler than I'm making it out to be. I don't need to overthink this.
Mm-hmm. And then how did your career progress there, where you were able to turn maybe like mopping the floors into something bigger, into something that you were actually adding value that couldn't be done on minimum wage?
So once the floors are clean, right, and the trash is taken out, and then you're moving on to the next thing. You're like, okay, wait a minute. If I could I see that they could use this new shelves, right? Like if we built some new shelves here, it would make this space more efficient and better. So the floor is super clean, everything's functional. Now I'm working on building the shelves, improving that. Okay, cool. Now that's done. It's like, wow, this guy's like making my life easier and making things more functional. I'm about to go on a shoot. I could use an extra set of hands. Jack, take a camera, come with me. And it like progresses like slowly like that, because everything else is done. I'm not concerned about the floor being clean or my space being, everything's like in great shape. And I'm going on a shoot. There's a set of hands here. Come with. And then you sort of like prove yourself in that, right? And then it's like, okay, wait, I need this other thing done. Jack he cleaned the floors, he built the shelves, he filmed, he had that extra camera. Now let's give him the next thing. Now it's like, once you've proven all those things, it's like, okay, you could probably be an associate producer on this project because you know how to you have all the nuts and bolts. Let's see what you can do here, and just keep adding things to the pile. And then every day I'm waking up with more emails of things that are like, hey, could you do this? Could you do this? Could you do this? And it's just like, check off the box and make things happen.
You probably made it easy for them too, right? Where there probably wasn't a lot of friction, where they give you a task and then you're like, well, I don't really know how to do this. Like, I'm not really sure. Like, it seems like you took a lot of responsibility.
If you ask someone to do something and then you have to take the same amount of time teaching them how to do it as you would just doing it on your own, it's not worth it, right? But if you can ask someone to do something and it takes 1% of your time and they can execute on it 90% as well as you can, it's worth it. So it's kind of about finding that trade-off. And so you're becoming super valuable working for someone if you are not asking them and taking all this time from them. You're just making it happen. Even if you're not accomplishing it, even if you're not doing it as well as they would do it, it's worth it for them. Right.
If somebody comes to you and during this time and you don't know how to do it, what do you do? Like, hey, can you do XYZ? Can you do this bookkeeping? Can you edit this animation?
Yep.
Like, what are next steps from there? Are you a deer in headlights? You kind of keep it cool. You're like, yeah, no, I got this.
You 100% say, yeah, I got it. And then you freak out later.
Yeah.
And then you stay up all night watching videos and practicing and trying to figure it out. And then you figure it out. Like, nothing is too hard to figure out. It just takes time. And it takes like the patience and being willing to go through, okay, www.google.com is a really powerful resource. Look it up. Read what people have written about it online. Practice, figure it out. Work on the animation over the course of 7 nights and say, okay, I understand this, and I've learned something that I didn't know before. And that's how you become good at life, is like you just pick up more and more skills. And sometimes having someone ask you to do something that you don't know how to do is the best way to learn and become better at all that stuff.
It builds upon itself.
Yeah.
And then it just gets easier, and then you can do it. You can do those tasks much quicker. And that's how, you become valuable to your employer.
Well, and you become super self-confident, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, I can do anything. I just learned how to do this crazy animation from watching YouTube videos. If I could take over the world, or whatever the thing is. Oh my God, I just filed like taxes and I had no idea how to do that before. Or I just bought a car. I didn't know how to do that before. No one taught me how to do it. I just looked it up. And it's crazy to me that like our parents did it without the internet. They had to like go to the library and read a book or something. I don't know. Like, we have such a huge advantage. Like, everything is out there.
There's no excuses to be lazy, to like not put in the work, to not learn.
Yeah.
Like
you got.
If you're
lazy, you're lazy.
Yeah.
It's there. Everything you need to know is out there. And I think I have a lot of friends who make YouTube videos or who do creative stuff, who get a lot of questions about, hey, how do you do this? How do you do that? It's like, and they get frustrated. They're like, I didn't ask some other YouTuber in the comment section how to do this thing. I looked it up and figured it out.
Yeah.
And you kind of want to scream at them like, figure it out. Stop being lazy. But it just takes it kind of takes a willingness to do that first thing, to say, wait a minute, I'll figure out how to do this. And then once you do that, it's like, oh, wow, I could kind of do anything. You figure out more and more.
You have this moment where you upload a video called I Got Fired.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's kind of one of these moments that I'm sure caught you by surprise a little bit, that it took off in the way it did.
Yeah, sort of,
yeah.
But not really.
Yeah.
There I had it was like a vision, sort of. So it starts with getting fired. It didn't start with uploading, sure. Right? So as soon as that happened and that moment set in, it was like 5 minutes. It's kind of shocking, right? When you have a job that you're comfortable with, that you think you're doing great at, and then someone pulls out the rug, you're like, holy shit, what's going on? 20 minutes later, I was like, wow, this is a great video. I have a great story. Let me tell it. And that can, rather than put together a resume, let me just tell this story. And I mean, there's a million videos called Why I Left BuzzFeed or whatever. It's for whatever reason, it's like a trending topic. People like to click on it. Mm-hmm. And I knew that at the time, Casey had just made a video about what happened with CNN or I'm leaving CNN or whatever. I knew there was going to be a lot of interest in that story, in that Beam story. And I'd been a part of it for so many years that I was like, let me tell my side of the story, because I'm not beholden to anyone right now. I guess I was like, maybe I'll lose a severance, a month.
Right, maybe I'll get in trouble or something.
Maybe, yeah. But what's the worst thing that's going to happen?
Yeah.
You burn a bridge, maybe. But I told the story, I think, in a way that wasn't I wasn't critical of anyone. I was just open about, here's what the last few years has been like, and here's what I'm hoping for the future. Mm-hmm. And it resonated with people. It got more views than I thought it would. At the time, I didn't have a big YouTube channel. I wasn't uploading regularly. I wasn't a YouTuber. And I thought, this video, just because people are going to be interested in the story, will get 100,000 views. And that's a ton. And then it got 100,000 views in a couple hours. And then it got 1 million views. And I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. But I knew it was going to resonate with people. Yeah. I don't know why. It was like a vision that came to me right after I got fired. Make this video. That's your next step.
There's a lot of emotion there. I mean, to be fired, to be at that place where you're like, I have no idea what to do next.
Yeah.
But I think this is kind of what we were talking about before, where you're just instead of just wallowing in that and just being like, fuck, what do I do now? It's like, well, I can make something. I can turn something into this. I can actually make this potentially be a good thing. And now here you are. Because it's I mean, you could have very easily just not made a video and then, got a job somewhere else, which would have been totally fine, applied to other places, and I'm sure you would have found a great company to work for. But now you're able to execute on something that a little bit bigger, a little bit personal, execute on your own vision.
So I Got Fired was a video that it totally, I was like, okay, this is going to go really well. People are going to watch this. What's next after that? And I had this idea, to rent an RV and to travel and just kind of self-reflect and then try and make a cool video from that. And that next video, I got a free RV. It was on the trending page worldwide and got several 100,000 views. And I was like, wow, wait a minute. Maybe there's actually a career path here. Maybe I could do this consistently. People are going to be into this because the background is cool and people are going to like that. So that's kind of where I am now, is continuing that journey.
You've been kind of thrown into this. You made the decision to upload that first video, but then when it takes on a life of its own, you're like, okay, now I'm a YouTuber. People start calling you a YouTuber, and you're like, I guess I'm a YouTuber now.
Yeah.
Then I'm sure, a mix of emotions about what to do next, which direction to take it,
totally,
how to not screw it up.
I mean, I watched Casey go from having a YouTube channel and making YouTube videos to being a daily vlogger and to blowing up and becoming enormous, and seeing the power of that and the value of that to brands and other people. And so I was working at a tech company that he was the CEO of, and I watched sort of this super expensive machine that was making an app that was resonating with a certain amount of people, and then parallel to that was a daily story about building that company that was 100 times more powerful and resonated with people that much more, and was cheaper to make. You didn't have to have a staff of 10 engineers to build the app. You had one person who was making videos every day. And so I think just seeing that, being next to that, around that for 3 or 4 years or whatever it was, I just like kind of got ingrained in me how the value of like storytelling and the value of having that audience and building on that. So, you know, it was something I wanted to try myself and see if I could figure out how to do it, even on a small scale.
Yeah, and what direction do you see it taking? Like, what kind of videos are you trying to make? What's the message behind what you're creating?
So I think that when you're starting on YouTube, you don't have to lock into anything. It's more the people who've been on YouTube for a long time who've delivered a certain type of video that feel like they have
That's going to happen in West Hollywood.
Yeah. What is that, a train?
I don't know. There was an accident here the other day. It's crazy. Shit's on fire in West Hollywood.
People who
It
have
did sound like a train, didn't it?
Yeah, I was like, what? But people who've been doing a specific thing on YouTube, their audience gets accustomed to it and they want to see that over and over again. It becomes hard to move in a different direction. But when you're new and you're sort of like opening story is, hey guys, I'm figuring this out. Like, come with me on this journey. You get the opportunity to do that. So I don't feel like I have to make a certain type of video. I kind of can do whatever I want every time and upload it and say to the audience, be open with them and say, hey guys, here's something else I'm trying. I'm trying to learn how to do this, or I'm trying to make a video about this. And as long as it's explained well, they stick with me because they're interested. In the beginning of the reason they subscribed is I said, hey, I'm about to go on this journey. Like, we'll figure it out together.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are in that place of, I mean, that's the whole point of this podcast. It's the whole point of what a lot of people talk about online is like, we're all trying to figure this shit out.
Yeah.
We don't it's not so cut and dry where you can say, these are the steps you need to take to be successful in this field as a YouTuber, as a filmmaker, whatever. It's a lot of figuring out. And I think there's a lot of value in showing the ups and the downs and the stuff that's like difficult to get through, because those are the moments that you can either give up or you can keep pushing forward.
Yeah. The important thing is just keep making stuff. Like, don't like go on vacation for like 2 months. Like, just be making stuff all the time, and that'll keep resonating with people. They keep hearing from you, and they say, "Oh, now he's doing this. Now he's doing this."
A big part of it was the starting up of the client work and to start to work with brands and companies. Have you done much besides the matcha bar video, or because it seems very early stages in that, and I'm curious what you've learned about just like freelancing, client work, and the balance between the two, because you got the YouTube channel as well.
I mean, I think what makes me somewhat unique is that I can kind of offer both things. I can be behind the camera and I can be in front of the camera. So like that video for Matcha Bar that I spent so much time on I was directing it and I was behind the camera, and that story was sort of happening in secret for a really long time. And then when I was releasing it, I made a companion piece that was for my YouTube channel that was told that story of like the behind the scenes of what it looks like. So that's sort of where I want my YouTube channel to go is, here's what I'm working on now. This is why I think it's exciting. This is why I was so excited to work with this company. Here's the story. And then you're looking at two different pieces. You're looking at, the behind the scenes of what it's like, because I think so many people are interested. So many people want to do that stuff. People want to direct videos and tell stories. So let me tell a story that's about how that works. Let me show you what goes into it, the secret sauce, and then actually give you the piece.
This is probably something that you're still figuring out, but I'm like super curious from a perspective of like running a business. Like, how would you, I guess ideally or in the future, look at those kinds of relationships and how to actually charge for that, right? It's like when you're looking at a piece of content you're uploading on your channel with your audience, you're providing a tremendous amount of value versus also making a video for this company, which is like, that to me is a little bit easier. If I'm making a video for a company, you have certain rates. There's certain cost that this video is going to take to make, and also what I'm willing to charge for it. But then the audience, there's maybe a CRM. Like, are you like dealing with rates per view? Like, how do you see that working?
Well, there's the opportunity cost you have to factor in too. So what is the value that you're going to get out of it? There's like a secret thing that you're getting paid, which is the experience and how much that's worth to you. So you have to consider that as well. It's not just like cut and dry. And I think a lot of times if a brand comes to me or an agency comes to me about doing something and it is very cut and dry, it's like, we need X number of views on this video and this is your cents per view, whatever. It's like, you don't get what I'm doing. And like, this is not going to work. I want to work with a brand or an agency that says, we love you and we love your way of storytelling and we want to speak to you and your audience and let's make something that you're excited about. And then we can factor this in somehow. So those are kind of the types of things that I like to do, brand work that I like to do on my YouTube channel, or brands that I like to work with is, okay, how am I going to make this work? And then figure out the price later on is what, how much value am I getting out of this? And what do I think it's going to cost to make everything happen and to make myself like not have to worry about the money.
Yeah.
Worry about making a really great video.
Yeah, I think that is like, that's the point where you want to get to also where, I mean, I think it's both about the money and not about the money at the same time. And like, when I was freelancing, it was, I wouldn't choose a project based on the money, but if they didn't have money, I wouldn't take the project.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's a certain, like I have to actually have my heart in this project. I have to believe in the company.
Totally.
But at the same time, they do need to have money, or else it's not going to be worth my time. It's it's a little contradictory. But.
Yeah, and I guess what I'm saying is there's like money isn't just like here's the check that they're writing. It's here's the experience that's being provided to you. Mm-hmm. You get to work with this person, and it's going to lead to this other opportunity that's going to be even bigger and better, and there's going to be more money there. So sometimes you can trade off money now for, if I hit this out of the park, it's going to lead to 10x on the next one.
Sure.
And so I didn't get paid at I probably went lower than I would have to do this matcha bar video because I knew I was going to hit it out of the park and people were going to be really excited about it and it was going to lead to 10 opportunities that were similar and doubly exciting. And so I was kind of getting paid in experience too. And when you're starting off and when you're young and you don't have a whole website of 50 videos that you think that people are going to be excited about, you have to trade. There's a trade-off there.
That's a great point, because early on, like you definitely, when you're building up, you're essentially building up a portfolio of work that brands can go to. Because right now, brands couldn't go to you. Like, if they came to you now, you could say, hey, I got this matcha bar video that we made, and you can see the 2 pieces of content. Now you have an example of something that you've created.
Yeah.
Like you said, this experience. But before that, it's a little bit harder to get your vision across, to show the results too, to show like this is what we were able to drive,
Yeah. And there's value in that. So I'm kind of getting paid in that way.
Yeah. Do you want to do some questions? I got some audience questions.
Oh, yeah.
About building something from the ground up. I got a question here from Nick T. He said, should you find your passion or seek stability?
Interesting. Both, whichever one. Like, it's hard. It's like you got to go with what's in your heart. So right now I don't have a ton of stability. My life has been a roller coaster in the last 6 months. And that's what's getting me out of bed every day and getting me super fired up about the next thing. For the 5 or 6 years before that, it was the same. It was very stable, and I knew the same thing every day. And at that time, I loved going to that job and building on that. And so I guess part of the reason that I loved having that job for so many years is I felt like I was learning something new every day, and I was getting better at, all sorts of skills. I was improving on myself. And then towards the end of my time doing that, it was like, wait, I'm not learning as much every day, and I'm not moving up as much as I would hope to. How do I keep doing that? Get rid of the stability and get on the roller coaster and follow sort of my passion. So I think there's a way to do both. Like, I think if you can get a super stable job where you're learning a ton and you're climbing the ladder, that's great. If getting off is going to help you keep climbing the ladder and learning more and improving yourself, do that. I have a friend who really quick, who I just got lunch with the other day, who worked at Goldman Sachs for like 4 or 5 years. And I was like, damn, that's crazy. Like, you had this super corporate, like, banking job for a really long time. Like, didn't it suck? Like, wasn't it a grind? He's like, I learned so much constantly. Every year I got better, and I did things that I didn't know I was even capable of, and kept improving and became better. And I'm leaving now to go to grad school and do something different and get a doctorate because I felt like I hit a wall at the top, or I hit a ceiling rather. And I stopped learning, and it just became comfortable. And so it was time to, get rid of the stability and do something new.
And I think that the more experience that you build over a long period of time, like we were talking about in the building of skills and acquiring new skills that you can apply to any project, there is a baseline level of stability in terms of like, you have a confidence to know that I have this skill that it's very valuable. And if worse comes to worse, I can find a job. I could find a client. And whether it's me doing weddings on the weekends or if I'm mopping floors, like I could definitely get by.
Yeah.
But there is obviously, it doesn't feel like stability.
Yeah.
When you leave the comfort of a job to pursue an untraditional path, it definitely, like you said, feels like a roller coaster.
Yeah. And you, at the end of the day, like, are you eating? Like, do you have a roof over your head? Like, first, you have to be able to get that stuff. And that's really scary if you can't, if you have no money in the bank and you're like, am I going to make rent next month because I got off? And maybe you do need the stability, but maybe you can have the stability and have a job that's 9 to 5 or whatever and work super late at night on your passion, and you can do both things at the same time.
Yeah, I'm a big advocate of the calculated risks.
Yeah.
So like if you're at a position where you are working in a job where it feels stable but it doesn't feel fulfilling, you put together a plan, try to save up 6 months worth of rent. That way, when you quit your job and there is that stability and the uncertainty of, am I going to have a paycheck this week, next month, you actually don't need it because you have that money, and then you always have the time. Because I think that's what a lot of people need, especially when we're following these paths, whether it's starting a YouTube channel or anything, is to have the time to explore and learn, and because things build very slow in the beginning.
Yeah. And there's trade-offs, right, of everything. It's like oftentimes the person who says, hey, I don't have enough time to learn how to I need to go to school and like leave my job to learn how to do animation or whatever. And you're like, what's your favorite show on Netflix? And they give you 27 shows. It's like, stop watching Netflix and start watching videos about how to do animation and like keep your job. And there you go. And then you can quit your job because you learned all these skills, and your full-time job can be animation. And then you can watch Netflix after work at that job.
Right. It needs to be in moderation.
Yeah. Like learn how to do the thing. Like, don't make an excuse for it.
I got a question from Lubo Yanni. As a filmmaker, how do you start getting higher paid projects? So how do you kind of push the threshold there? And I know you
make great work.
Yeah.
You make great work, right? And like, you make people come to you, and then there becomes like scarcity, supply and demand. Is like, there's only one of you, and you can only make so many projects at a time, and then brands are competing for you, or like, it's pretty simple. Like, if you make really great work, you're gonna get higher pay. You're gonna get paid more because there's gonna be 2 brands that want to hire you in August, and you can sort of like pit them against each other and say, hey, I can only do one of these jobs, and they'll say, all right, we really need this. We'll pay you 20% more. You hit that out of the park. And then the next job, it's like the same thing, kind of folds on itself.
Yeah, I think there's probably always a risk that when you're starting to increase your rate, that a client might say, no, that's too much money for us. And I think that's the risk that you have to be willing to take.
Oh yeah, that happens to me all the time. And it's like, if it's not worth it for me, then it's not worth it at the time. And then my next video is gonna be great, and they're gonna see that, and they're gonna say, wow, we should have paid him more for that. And it kind of just builds over time. I think that's true of pretty much any job, though, right? The more you do it, the better you get at it, the more you get a raise every year. And it's just like a little bit more abstract in filmmaking and working with clients, but it's happening the same way.
Yeah, I really think it is as simple as just focusing on the work.
Yeah.
Like, I think we get a little bit too distracted by everything else, social media, whatever it is. Like, I got to build this up. When if you just focus on your work every day, that's why people are coming back to you.
Yeah.
It's because they love the work that you make, whether you're a freelancer or you're somebody creating a YouTube channel.
Yeah. It's like sports, right? Like, if you're an athlete, don't worry about like getting your contract signed. Worry about like getting better at whatever it is, hitting a baseball. Mm-hmm. And then you'll get a bigger contract because your average goes up. That's the same thing.
Max Rojas. I'm about to graduate college. I'm a television production major. I have 2 part-time jobs and a side gig in photography, and I can only do this for so long. Any advice for those who are making a living picking up gigs here and there?
If you can only do this for so long, I guess, like, you have to grind, right? And if you don't want to grind when you first graduate school, you're not going to there's going to be other people that are working harder than you that are getting more of those jobs, and they're going to continue to excel and get the higher rates and get the dream job, right? So you have to work really. When I graduated school, for the first 5 years, I would get to the office at 6 and I would leave at 11 for years, and I would come in every weekend, all the time.
Holy shit, dude. That's crazy.
Because I knew it was going to lead to something bigger, right? I knew if I was in the studio working on these projects, improving the space, improving the company, there was going to be bigger and better opportunities for me. If I was coming in at 9 and leaving at 5 every day, and then going home and watching movies or TV or whatever, or doing something else, it wasn't going to be. It's you just have to work hard. There's no way around it. And especially when you first graduate college.
Yeah, I did, because I think that there is the element of the short-term sacrifice for the long-term gain there.
Yeah.
And there is no point where you're probably going to work harder than in the very beginning. It's going to be exhausting. It's going to be draining. You're going to be taking, lugging your gear on the train in the middle of the night in really shady neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's what it takes to make it in the beginning. And then eventually, as you build up more and more experience, I don't think you have to continue to grind like that, because I do think that you need to have a balance in life. And you need to actually, why are we working so hard? Because we want to actually enjoy life. We want to spend time with our loved ones. We want to have really cool experiences and share that with our friends.
But if there is ever a time to do it, it's when you're 23 and 24 and 25 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Those first couple years out of school. And that's when you can afford to do, physically, you can work super late and then go out drinking with your friends for a few hours and wake up and deal with the hangover. And when you're,
it is amazing, isn't it? That we were so resilient when we were younger.
Yeah. You can do that stuff. You don't need as much sleep. You bounce back and your body's ready. And then you get older. You're like, wait a minute, I need to slow down, and I need to it's just a natural thing. I think your body's all right, time to have kids and settle down and have that more stability or whatever. And don't stay up all night on this project. Yeah.
No, I think, you're totally right that you got to put in the work when you're young. I think it was always easier for me to do it when I was invested. I guess you're always invested in the outcome if you're working for a company, specifically a smaller company like you did. But at the same time, for me, even now, if I have to work on the weekends, if I have to work late nights, and that happens every once in a while, I am okay with it because I know I'm building something for myself.
When you're trying to get a job out of school, I look at your resume and it's okay, you went to school, you haven't done shit yet, you need to go to school again for the next 4 years, and that's this, I guess, the school of hard knocks, whatever life. It's what have you done in those 4 years? That means even more than what you did in college. And then it becomes a combination of, okay, here's all the things you picked up and learned while you were in school, and here's all the skills and things you learned because I saw that you were waking up super early and staying up super late working on all these projects. You accomplished all this stuff. You've proved it. Now here's your rate that you asked for. Here's your dream job. Here's the cushy life, because you've shown you've cut your teeth already. There's no better time to do it than when you're young.
Yeah, I really think that when you're going for that first internship or job, you have to bring something to the table. You have to show something that you've made or created, because I don't think a degree alone is enough, because that's the bare minimum. That's what everybody has, right? So it's what can you bring that's a little bit different? What have you done? What have you made outside of college?
Yeah. My little brother does film production stuff. He works for a company, and he had an opportunity to work on this side gig, and he was like, well, I'm going to have to stay up. I'm going to have to stay up till 1 for a week every night. And I was like, yeah, but then you have this piece that goes on your website that gets you the next gig, and you get paid more. He's like, okay, I guess. And he did it. I'm like, how was it? Are you glad the person who gave him the job is a friend of mine? She said he did a great job. It was awesome. He did such a good job editing his video or whatever. And I said to him, was it worth it? He's like, yeah, I worked really hard, but I'm glad I did it. I'm like, there you go. When's the next one? Go next week. Do the same thing. You're young, Keep getting better.
Yeah. Make mistakes. Don't be afraid to screw up.
Yeah. And then when you leave, and you go to that place where you have the instability, you don't have a 9-to-5 job, you just know in the back of your head, people want you. Because you've done all this stuff. And that's rare. It's not easy to find people who are really good at doing whatever all these things are, making videos or editing or doing animation or whatever it is. And
the core behind it, the reliability.
Yeah.
The fact that somebody asks you to do something and they're confident that you're going to get it done, that they don't have to come back in a week and be like, well, what's going on? Where is the thing I asked you to do?
Yeah. It's pretty simple, right?
It is. In theory, it's very simple. But then there's the emotions that we have to deal with in those moments, like you said, when somebody gives you a project to do, and you're like, I don't know what the fuck, how do I even do this?
Yeah.
You just have to overcome it and deliver.
Mm-hmm.
And if you keep delivering, the people, your clients, your employer, they're going to keep coming back to you.
Yeah.
Simone Brigante, how do you overcome the fear of being teased by your friends when starting your YouTube channel or your podcast?
You never do. Right? Like, it's not even your friends. It's just being in the street and like filming yourself with the selfie stick. You're like, oh God, I gotta get this shot.
Yeah, like I hate myself right now.
But then you do it and you build an audience and you start getting paid and you're like, wow, my job is to make YouTube videos. And so when you're in Whole Foods filming yourself and the person's like, oh, this idiot's filming himself, you're like, I'm getting paid a lot of money to be filming myself right now. What are you doing?
Yeah.
It's kind of like you feel it. I don't know. That's what happens. You have to just deal with it at the beginning, and then you build something that's worth it and you care about it. You made a video that you loved. You don't think about, oh, wow, it's so embarrassing when I was filming myself in Whole Foods. You're like, wow, this shot looks awesome. This video is awesome because I did that. And then the next time you're like, oh, it's embarrassing that I filmed myself. But the end product's really cool.
Yeah, I think,
That's
focusing
when the
on the end
embarrassment goes
product,
away.
focusing on what you're making, and if you love what you made at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
It didn't, and like the fact that you felt a little bit weird filming yourself in public, you're gonna grow out of that.
Yeah.
And you're gonna be able, if you just keep doing it and keep putting yourself out there. I think the friends thing, I certainly had that a little bit when I started putting myself out there, because like I had done freelance for a long time, but it was what helped me get over it was being as much myself as possible on camera and not faking it.
Yeah.
And not being this like personality that I wasn't, because then like your friends, those that know you, will be like, what are you doing? Like you're putting on this character or this show, but that's not actually who you are. I think it comes from trying to be authentic on camera and authentic in the work that you're creating. If you really believe in it, then that's going to drive you past any of those doubts of what friends and family might think of you.
Yeah.
How have you, because I definitely noticed that in your videos, that very authentic. It feels like this is how you talk to anybody when you're talking to a camera. It may be just like talking to a friend. Like, how did you get good at that, especially from like very early on?
So I was doing it in secret before, right? Like you have to just do it a lot. You have to film yourself and edit yourself and say, wow, when I say the word water, I sound weird. Like, let me re-say that, and you just kind of get more comfortable. And so I did two things. One was I was working at when Beam was acquired by CNN. I was host producing, and so I've spent a lot of time filming myself and telling stories there. And then I started a show on I'm a big Knicks fan. I started a show about the Knicks on YouTube, and just every week, this week is a Knicks fan, and it was about the trials and tribulations of being a Knicks fan because the Knicks suck all the time. And the reason that I did that show wasn't because I thought like I was going to get hired by the Knicks, or because I did it because I knew it was something that I cared about enough to make a video about every week, and I wanted to practice putting myself on camera. So you just have to do it a lot, and you get comfortable.
I guess that's it, right? Is just keep doing it,
Yeah.
and eventually those walls will break down. Where like the first time you hit record on a video, that's the hardest one. That's the one where you feel uncomfortable and awkward, and like you're looking at a lens. You're not actually talking to anybody, and the more you do it, the more it feels natural.
And I said earlier, like working with these guys at Matcha Bar, it just took a lot of times of us, and it was breaking through that same thing. I knew the first time I filmed them, I just brought a camera like day one into their office, and I was like, talk to me. And I put the camera in their face, and they were like, we hate how we sound. I'm like, so do it better next time.
Yeah.
Like, okay. And they did it better next time. Like, we kind of hate how we sound. So I'm like, well, you know how you sound, so now fix it.
Yeah.
And like keep watching it back, and we'll edit this video, and we'll look at it and get it better, and then eventually they're like, okay, now I feel like I'm coming across how I actually am in real life. I'm like, there you go.
That's it. It takes a lot of trial
Just
and error,
trial and
and like
error,
the more you do it, and if you can compress it down to a like a project like that's a very short period of time, you're like, let's just try to like just shoot this as many times as we can, and eventually we're gonna find a take that's gonna work for us.
Yeah. I made a video. I wrote and directed a video with a couple friends called What's Up YouTube, and it's about a YouTuber who his life sucks, and it keeps cutting back and forth between his life like being crappy and then like filming himself in front of the camera. And it was like there's this common refrain that I have from that video where he every starts a video go, "What's up, YouTube?" and like says like, "Today we're going to talk about whatever." And then there was this like thing where we would be filming him with the camera in front of himself, and he'd say, "What's up, YouTube? What's up, YouTube?" No. "What's up, YouTube?" And it's just like, that's part of it, is like saying it over and over again to a point that when the camera's on you. It's this weird thing that you have to do, but you just do multiple takes, and you're like, okay, that one sounded good.
Yeah.
Now we're good to go.
I was so impressed the first time I shot a video with Colin and Samir. Like, they've gotten so good at it that they can just like, they know when there's going to be a jump cut. They know how it's going to be edited, that they can just like plow through it. Even if they slip up or make a little mistake, they just keep going. I'm like, I was super impressed because I was like, fuck, like I'm like, I got to do this all in one take, or you know what I mean? You have to understand how this is going to be cut, how it's going to be edited. Because you also don't want to struggle through it. You don't want it to be a pain in the ass every time you shoot a video. You want it to be fun. You want to actually enjoy the process.
Yeah, and look at videos of them from 6 years ago or something. They're super awkward, right?
Yeah.
They've been doing it for 6 years. Now they're amazing.
Mm-hmm.
You just keep doing it, and you get better.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap up this podcast with a couple quick questions. Quick questions, not quick answers. So feel free to expand if you want. If you could go back to college graduation, is there anything you would do differently? Is there any lessons that you've learned since then that you would give to yourself?
No, I'm no. I loved every minute of it. The thing that I did in college is I spent a lot of time working on projects with friends and making videos and stuff with friends. And sometimes I would sacrifice studying for an econ test to like make a music video with my buddies. And I'm glad that I did that.
So be willing to.
So yeah, one more. No one looks at your grades, your college grades.
No.
Your high school grades matter, your college grades. Like no one ever looks at that. Your GPA, like whatever, it's cool, get a good GPA. And like, but what's more important is what is the value that you're getting out of it. You know, if your teacher assigns 3 books and 2 of them you're like, this book's stupid, I hate this book, pick up a different book on the same subject that you do care about and teach yourself something. And so regardless of your grade at the end of the semester, if you feel like you learned something valuable to yourself, you got an A. That's all that matters.
Yeah, you're the one that's paying for college for most people. Like, you should be making sure you're actually getting the investment out of it.
Yeah.
So if you don't like what's being taught in the classroom, you know, maybe switch out of the class, change your classes, you know, figure out a new syllabus, or pick up books and learn on your own time. I think that is the most valuable thing. Like you said, it's the working really on the projects outside of school. Because how much class is 10 hours, 15 hours? How many hours a week? It's not that much. Obviously, there's studying involved and a lot of work outside of that. But like, you need to really make sure you're putting in the work and pursuing what you're passionate about and finding your passions to begin with in between classes, outside of class. What's the simplest advice that's the most important to follow?
Just work hard. That's easy.
That's easy.
Don't make excuses.
Yeah.
You just fucking do it.
Just do the work.
Just do it is such a good slogan from Nike, because you're like, wow, yeah. But actually, like, think about that. Think about that all the time. Just do it.
What universal skill is the most important for creators to learn?
Writing. Yeah, writing is the most important. Like,
Why?
thinking through the storytelling, like, it all starts with writing. Because people, if you try and make something that's really big, you have this big vision for a film or whatever, and doesn't like resonate with me, the problem is the writing. The problem is not like what camera you used or how you edited or whatever. It's like, how is this story told? And that starts with, you know, the premise wasn't easy for me to follow or didn't resonate me or whatever. It's all writing thing. Writing's a key to life across the board. That's how you get your ideas across. You email people all day. You want to make something happen. It's about writing a story about that people will click, and then they'll telling your story.
It's a part of everything. I mean, YouTube description, Twitter, Instagram, the caption, like you said, email. It's, if you're not a good writer, and you can't succinctly get your message across in a very short space, you're not going to do well. Like, if you're emailing people and it's 4 paragraphs, I think it's like Mark Twain or somebody said, you know, I was going to write you a short letter, but I didn't have time, so I wrote a long one. And it's so much harder to create a really short, pithy email than it is to just like fucking throw your thoughts at the wall and let the person deal with it and decipher it. I think it does take time, and it takes skill to actually learn how to write and how to communicate with people.
And it just like, it's just time, right? It's just do it all the time. Do it every day. Carve out time and do it.
How do you get through doubt?
I'm just lucky, I guess, that I don't have doubt about a lot of stuff. I don't know.
You're able to like sidestep.
Yeah, I'm just a very confident person.
Right.
I don't know.
You don't have doubts like before clicking upload on a video. Like, are people gonna like this?
If you have doubt about if people are gonna like the video, whatever, upload it and like move on, make the next one better. You know, it's a learning experience. You know, if you have doubts about something, there's a reason probably, and you should learn from that.
Seems like you don't get too caught up on what other people think.
This is, I got advice from Casey when I started my YouTube channel, and he said, just keep hitting the upload button and just like don't overthink it. Just upload and then make the next one. Always be thinking about the next one. That's big on YouTube.
Always think about the next one. How far out do you
Keep
plan in
moving.
advance? Because obviously we want to be making videos.
It's hard for me to like juggle too many videos at once, because it gets like just kind of like it's a lot to keep track of. But I have like a big like box of ideas and stuff, like titles and stuff like that, and stories that I want to tell. So I always have something that's kind of like ready to go, or I get an opportunity that pops up. I'm like, oh, I can make a cool video about that.
What's one thing that people should read before they go to bed tonight?
A book, like an actual book. Like pick up a book and like get into it. It doesn't matter what the book is. Just something that will keep your interest and you want to keep turning the pages on. Like, so like don't read Twitter, don't read Facebook, don't read an article on your phone. Pick up an actual book.
Like a physical book.
And it could be a fiction book, it could be a nonfiction book, it could be short, it could be long. But I think carving out time to read books is really, really helpful, and like kind of like centers you in a way in this world that we're living in that's super fast, where people are on their phone, the computer, and email all the time. Carving out time to like put that away and pick up a book is like super meditative and calming, I think.
Is there a book that you've gone back to multiple times because of its effects, or do you generally move on to the next?
I've read a couple books multiple times. I'm a big like fiction reader. And there's this book called The Savage Detectives that I really like. That's about these like poets in Mexico that just was super inspiring, and a cool story that I was engaging. I've read it now. Like I've read it in Spanish a couple times. I've read it in English a couple times. I just love that book. I love that writer. It's really well done.
And to wrap up here, what's the best way for people to connect with you online? Where should we send them to?
I mean, definitely watch my YouTube videos. That's fun, because that's where most of my work is. All my work is, but also Twitter is good. I'm on Twitter a lot. And tweet at me, and I'll tweet back at you.
And it's youtube.com/
Jack Coyne.
Coyne.
And my Twitter is Jackie, because Jack Coyne was taken JCKYCOYNE.
Got it. Perfect, man. Thanks for doing the show.
Thanks for having me.
And that's the podcast for this week. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to find out more about this podcast, you can go to groundupshow.com. All right. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. See you next week.